good morning. Live. Where's my earbud? Where's my earbud? Here's my earbud. So we're live. And good morning. This is your Sensei Owl Bob. And that was the roadmap I had up there. And, the old crone took me on many a journey, right? And guess wasn't by drinking from the three teapots. She had on her wood stove. When I got up to her farm, I was like Mickey Mouse, the sorcerer's apprentice, right? And the sorcerer is truly AI, right? And the old crone is a form of AI. So she was born in the late 19th century. She was like traveled everywhere through her chimney. And it was a time and space. What is Doctor Who's TARDIS? He's got a police box. The old crone had a fireplace. And when I take you into your super conscious mind, that's your sanctuary of your own choosing. That, and you come through the doorway of your id from your library of your Akashic record, which is your subconscious mind. But you get there by breathing, that 20% in, that more than 20%, and what that is by, when you breathe that more, you have an autonomic nervous system that breathes for you. Otherwise, you fall over, right? But when you breathe that extra 20%, you have to use your conscious mind. You have to think about it, thus quieting all the peripheral messages out of your brain, because our brain is mostly flotsam and jetsam of irrelevant chatter. And I constantly say, if you want to, let's see, who is that? Fish. Good morning, Fish. If you want to be the person you want to be, first to have good thoughts, good words that bring forth good actions, good deeds, which bring good outcomes, right? And otherwise, the squirrel in your caged Rolodex of your mind, and that's all your mind is. It's not where your soul is. Any place. This is where your soul is. Your heart. You're not feeling things from your heart, right? You're not there. And when I was born, I was taken away, right, from my evil stepmother, who was my biological mother. My real mother was my grandma, right? She took care of me. She brought me up, When my parents brought me home from the hospital and stuck me out on the porch because they lived in a little house and were 6 kids and they didn't want me in their bedroom, they put me on the porch in a dresser drawer that was moldy, and that's why I have bad lungs. That whole 6 months or so of living on. Now, my Uncle Steve, when he saw that, he brought his boys in because he was the head engineer of Idlewild, which became Kennedy Airport. So he was in charge of that. So he brought his plumbers in, put a new boiler in the basement because it was a coal boiler. He replaced it with a oil burner, and put a gigantic long a radiator underneath the window, because it was kind of the back porch was more or less a sunroom that my mom put the plants in for the winter, and so I was put out there, and Uncle Steve made it warm like Bermuda. So all of this steam, it's like Old Faithful would come off this radiator. It had little steam things so the radiator wouldn't blow up. And it covered the windows with moisture because it was really cold outside. It would freeze. The sunlight would come in, and my little bassinet of a dresser drawer would be covered in colored lights of the rainbow. And between the noxious fumes every time the boiler would kick on, all that cold, the 70 years of coal dust in the floorboards and I was breathing in the lead and the arsenic and all of that good stuff, And my parents, who knew? They didn't know. Did they care? I'm sure at some moment they cared, but they weren't present. And that's what we're going to talk about. What's normal and what's present, right? And I would again say, hey, good morning. This is your Sensei Al Bob, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. And I want to tell you right off the bat, this show today is not for kids, right? So grown-ups, shush your little ones away. Grown-ups, sit in a nice, comfortable chair, get yourself a libation, a cup of tea, sit back and ready for a really interesting ride, right? And remember, whatever I say, don't believe anything I say, right? So I was sick. First of all, I've died 6 times in my life. And the first time was when I was born, because my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck and the moron doctors trying to pull me out with salad tongs. They were going to pop my head off like a tick and rip the uterus out of my mother, and she'd bleed to death. Luckily for me, there was a doctor who was just observing, and she was a young woman doctor, and she had a specialty of infant stress syndrome, which she invented, and she said that the major problem with humanity was being born, if we were just allowed, and that's why the white, industrial, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant world that through their science tried to prove that they, basically the Rockefeller Foundation, who I work for a lot, did everything they could to prove white men were, put on this earth by God to rule, just like back in the days when the king said it was, God said I should be king. So this female saw what was happening, and she pushed the doctors out of the way, and screamed at them and pushed me back in, turned me around, put her hands in the uterus, unraveled the umbilical cord around my neck, and then eased me out, right? That's the cord, swaddled me up and took me away. She didn't hand me over to a nurse or anything. She took me into a sterile room and said to the doctor, so I think you can take care of him now. Don't kill the mother, So went in there and she cleaned me up and did all those things that you need. And, she put me on IV drip, a little teeny thing I was, this little peanut. And I was pretty messed up, right? And so all as I grew up, so from infancy, they brought me home and I was pretty screwed up. And instead of being really careful about me, they had 6 others who said whatever. And they put me in the dresser drawer in the porch, right? And after about 6 months, after I was born in, New Year, by spring, my mom took all the plants out, but it was getting hotter and hotter. So my grandma said, okay, you guys are morons. So she took me back to her place, right? And I grew up those first 7 years in Harlem, right? And I grew up 2nd Avenue, every 2 blocks from 96th Street was, every different kind of Lithuanian, Polish, German, Italian, you name it, Irish. And within those cohorts, there were different, stratas. And so... And why all the cops were Irish is because during the Civil War, they were brought over from Ireland, and there would be signs, no dogs, no blacks, no Irish, at the bottom, the Irish at the bottom. And they just threw them into the never-ending corporate industrial death pit of the Civil War. And so after the war, all those Irish guys were military trained, and the ones who were survived were beholden to the northern economic elite of old money who made a fortune. And see, what you don't understand is the Civil War was not about slavery. It was about a means of production. It was not only about a means of production, it was about who owned America. Because, see, the South made cotton was king, and they were sending that cotton after it was ginned back to England. And England was becoming industrialized. They had the steam engine there, and they were turning that into cheap clothes. And then they were using the cheap clothes to deflate the economies of places like India and all of South Asia. Because those people used to make their own clothes, spin their own linen. And, England could make it cheaper. Elena, how you doing, baby? So we are still in the same pit, right? And I showed you this little cute thing. This was made in the 1970s, right? And it is a corporate map of who does what, who owns what, and why America's being bankrupt, right? And so a friend of mine from Keltor Foreign Relations put this together, right? And he started it, I added to it, and then his minions did this whole thing. So, top of the heap, David Rockford, Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, right? Right below him is Ronald Reagan. Federal Reserve is to the right, and the Treasury is to the left, and or the other way around. And so you have who's bankrupting America, but the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, right? And Ronald Reagan was, the poster boy of this. And this William Clark, George Bush, Alexander Haig, C. Weinberger, General David Jones, William Casey. My parents are buried right next to William Casey. That's where I'm going to be buried. In Long Island, there is a special cemetery for people like this. And my dad was one of the people like this. So I was exposed to this in the family realm. My mom was, my father's career. My mom was a great party girl. And she'd throw these great parties, and these guys would come. And I, as a little boy, would listen to their stories and say, why are you doing that? You're killing millions of people, like at 7. And they'd look at me, and my father would say, who are you? You don't belong here. And everyone would go, ho, 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 ho. And when I was that age, people thought I was, boy, this boy ain't normal, And because I was understanding what the grown-ups were saying and commenting on it at 7. Because I grew up between 1 and 6 in a place called Harlem, where everybody, all the people who were amazing human beings, who just came off the boat. And people go, oh, those Muslims come to America today, and they don't speak their own. Well, on 2nd Avenue, every 2 blocks was a different nationality, and they all spoke their own language. You didn't hear English in those shops. You heard Italian and French and German and Swahili and Hebrew, and then they would kind of fan out into suburbs. There was a little Italy downtown and a little Chinatown, and there was a little Israel too, right off of East Broadway. And they would go down there and they would do the American dream. They would start businesses and restaurants, catering to the people who like that culture. That's America. That's the best part of America. I'm a little. Flemmy, I showed you that video yesterday of the styrofoam snow. The gas is still around, and everyone here has their coffin like me. And the fact that I'm in a little box that's like last night, it was actually a little warmer. It was like 24 instead of 9, and yet it was 45 in my little box with the heat on, and under the in my little tent where on top of my bed that I sleep in, and then I got the electric blanket. It was nice and warm in there, but to get out of that, it's a little nippy. So this is the question: what is normal now? So as I when I came back 7 years old to my parents' house, living with my feral family of wolves, I kind of again, my dad would always, virtually every day, who are you? Why are you here? You're not one of us. He would say that, What are we going to do with you? And I was like, because I grew up with my grandma, I knew she loved me. I knew there were thousands of people who were like me, they spoke all different languages and thought different things. And but the white Anglo-Saxon world, male world, looks at things as disorders. Like, let's look at this. Here's this guy.
When the European, in a sense, America is dying from within because they forgot the instructions on how to live on Earth. Everything is coming to a time where prophecy and man's inability to live on Earth in a spiritual way will come to a crossroad of great problems. It's the Hopi belief, it's our belief that if you're not spiritually connected to the Earth and understand the spiritual reality of how to live on Earth, it's likely you will not make it. When Columbus came, that began what we term as the First World War. That was the true First World War when Columbus arrived. Because along with him came everybody.
So go watch this video, Indigenous Native American Prophecy. Very good, right? And what is DID disorder? What is DID disorder? Dissociative identity disorder, right? And I used to call it, what did they used to call it? They used to call it multiple personalities, right? So dissociative identity disorder, meaning you don't know who you are. Now, all of us have many different personalities, right? And but we weave them into a singular, person, right? And so, but because our society is so sociopathic, we are off the hook. We don't know what's going on. So when I was a little boy, they didn't have all these disorders, right? That was the 50s, right? And so, but they said, something's wrong with this kid. And so they sent me to a shrink, but a more, not a shrink like put you on a couch and talk about questions, but a guy who gives you all these tests, shows you pictures and put blocks and things and gives you an IQ test and stuff like that. So anyway, this guy goes, no, your son here is not, abnormal. He's above normal. What? Oh yeah, he's got an IQ of somewhere between 180 and 210. It's like, what? Oh yes, we have to like shepherd him. And that's when my cardinal godfather, Cardinal Cushing, kind of took over. And like from birth, from my grandma all the way up until I was 17, there were many people in my life who physically took me and tried to sculpt me into something, right? Oh wow, this is a diamond in the rough. We have to shave off the corners. And mostly I could feel things. and they didn't want to talk about that. So I was turned into a scholar, read books. And because I could read so fast and assimilate information so quickly, but one thing I couldn't do is my brain wouldn't, if I made me, like in first grade, I remember Sister Holy Roller Skate. So I had all these great teachers up until I went to first grade. And then I was given a moron, right? My cardinal dropped the ball. And I went in there and I couldn't read out loud, right? And so, now my mom thought I could because I used to read with her. But what I would do is we would read books like Stuart Little and The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland, and I would read it really quick and then tell her the synopsis of the story, right? And I would read a whole page and I wouldn't read it for word. I go, bing, I'd like to take a picture of it, and then I'd play it back, and she'd read the next page, and and so she thought I was reading, but I wasn't, right? Whereas when I went to Holy Roller Skate and Hitler's Rifle Squad, that was the name of the school, Hitler's Rifle Squad, HRS, Holy Redeemer School. And Sister Holy Roller Skate, I was given the Dick and Jane book, and I look, flip, read all the pages, and go, this, why, no, I don't want to read this. And she goes, what do you mean? I'm telling you to read it out loud. And I said, no, and then she read it out loud. Okay, I'll read it. And I couldn't read it out loud. I would go, flip, and we give her a synopsis of the story. And she goes, no, that's not reading it out loud. Read it out loud, right? And then when we were writing our stuff, I would draw pictures. Instead of making an A, I would draw a picture. Anyway, to them, that was like, what's wrong with this boy? He's abnormal. And, from going into school, and they burnt the school down. I mean, when I went to school at first, can I have those boxes? Can you? Yeah, I'll take them away so you don't have to burn them. Packing things, making, put so many of this in that box and so many, and then write on gloves so I don't have to buy another pair. So anyway, that was my early life of having amazing mentors and catastrophic demons. And that's what our society is. That's what brought us this little, cultural Gestapo guide of this is what's going on. This was written in the 70s, and they're talking about Ronald Reagan being president, and they're talking about it in the 70s, right? Everything, there is nothing that just happens. Donald Trump didn't just win. He was put there. NBC, one of the largest military industrial contractors, General Electric, owns NBC, and they put him on a TV show called, The Apprentice. He was apprenticing to be the president, right? Those morons who were at the table with him, no, those weren't apprentices. That was what he was going to do with his cabinet. I mean, the American public was getting a picture of what we were going to get for president, right? Where most of the other morons, Billy Clinton, George W., George H., none of those people did we get a heads up on. But because Donald Trump was going to be such disruption and change everything sideways, right? And we were, like in 5 years, less than 5 years, no one's going to own a car, and no one's even going to have their smartphone. This is going to go the way of the dodo, right? What we're going to have are tattoos on us, right? Right here. That will be our smartphone. It'll be this, but it'll be tattooed here. And it'll be wired into us, transhumanist. And so they'll be able to put, you'll be able to see things, you won't have to look at the screen. You'll see it on your eyeballs, right? And you'll think that's great. You're so, you'll be like, you'll know more. It'll all be right in here. but they'll be able to control us like you can't believe. They will know everything about you, your heart rate, and they'll be knowing what you're doing, where you're going. Every square inch of you is going to be owned. I mean, we already are. Go look at a guy. What's his name? He's all about admiralty law. And he research. You know, interviewed him. What's his name? So all these people, um, that are, David Icke. Go watch David Icke's video. Jordan Maxwell, that guy. Linda Moulton Howe. Um, Bill Cooper. Um, Preston Nichols. These people are people I knew pretty well, who would, because I started doing these conferences in the 70s, and I was part of the Theosophical Society. I had this building called the Green Door. It had a great auditorium, and I would bring interesting people to lecture. And it was just down the street from NYU and just over there to, Cooper Union. And I went to all those schools, so I was kind of connected to all that. And I thought if we could bring together good minds and good hearts, we could shepherd. Because, we all knew about 2012. We all knew about 2000 Y2K. We all knew what was coming, and that these guys, these guys were architecting what we're going through right now, right? And if you go to the Georgia Stones off of Route whatever, Interstate whatever, I think it's 85, near Atlanta, it's about 60 miles out of Atlanta. They put it right on the stones, like the Ten Commandments. We only want 500 million people. We're going to kill everybody else. Da 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 da. And everything you see, Philip K. Dick's, all the great movies, Blade Runner, Logan's Run, Gattaca, all these movies that were, what's it one? Minority Report. These are all Philip K. Dick novels that he wrote in the 40s and 50s, and he died, pretty much unknown until in the 60s and 70s, people started reading his books. And it's like, our friend who did Marvel Comics, who just recently died, Stan Lee. Man, that guy, Captain America is exactly what's going on, right? So, basically 40% of all Americans have some kind of Asperger's autistic disorder. But it's not a disorder because after Sister Holy Roller, she broke my jaw. She broke the orbit. That's why I can't see too good out of this eye, right? And she nearly killed me. She was like choking me. That's my lungs. It's that I must have been hung in another life, because 3 or 4 times, people have tried to strangle me, first at birth and Sister Holy Roller Skate, accident, where I was wrapped up in cable and, and a crane was lifting me up. I have two, I keep saying two great skills, and they're like antecedents. One is I'm always in the right place at the right time, and I know it. But the other part of that antecedent is, okay, and my biggest passion, or I would almost call addiction, is I want to know. So there were a number of things I do and I did well. I was a great photographer. I had I know Ansel Adams. I was part of Magnum, Lisette Modell and her husband, Cartier-Bresson, were my teacher. I mean, I have a pretty good protocol and very well connected. I could have been famous as a journalist photographer, but why my photos were so good is that I empathized with the people I took pictures of. I mean, instead of just going click, 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 I stopped, I talked to them, I said, what's going on? I get their story, I let them tell me their story, and I said, is it okay if I take a few pictures? And they say, sure. And I would take pretty amazing pictures. Dorothy Lang, I kind of came from that school of photography. So I could have been a great photographer. I mean, I knew all the right people. I was part of the right situations. I was working at it. And then I met Donna Ann McAdams, who's a great photographer in her own right. And we started a studio called DNA. And it was we were part of the Whitney Annual. We had shows at White Columns. We had shows all over the place. And we were right on that edge of like making it. But that's when she says, "Oh, I don't want to be with you anymore." And I said, "What's your problem?" And she goes, "Well, you can do all this other stuff, but why do we have to have DNA?" I said, "Well, you want it. You moved into my loft. I built you the world's greatest darkroom. I connected you to all the great photographers. They weren't interested in you, but they were interested in us. I was the guy who would open the door and we would walk through together. We did that for 8 years. We were tremendously successful. Why don't you want to still do that? Because we're right on the." She goes, "No, I just want it to be Donna, not Donna and Al." So I said, "Fine, honey, I love you. What do you want?" So I want a house in the suburbs with a picket fence. So I went off and started a real estate business in Long Island with my dad and got my master's license in New York and started making, businessman type of money and being serious about it and organized about it. And as she then started fooling around with a rich guy, and her idea was to divorce me, marry him, and divorce. And I had nothing at the time. So monetarily, I was living like a millionaire, but we traveled the world first class everywhere. And yet we, never had more than $100 in our pocket. And she would get, worried about how am I going to pay my bills. I said, "Don't worry about it. It'll always work out." And it did. But she couldn't let go of her anxiety to, embrace what was in front of us. And that's what life's about, right? So, and that's not normal. People don't want that. They don't think that's normal. What's normal, right? So there's 3 of you. So there should be 3 thumbs up at least. Come on, let's get some more subscribers. Let's, let's get me to 1,000. Come on. I've been doing this for a year, right? Because, gang, your Sensei Alba, I don't do things forever. That's why I've done so many of these shows, because I know at some point I'm not going to be doing them because I'll be doing something else, and this is just a diving board, and my life is always a motivation, being up into school when I owned it was a motivation to, I did a bunch of things that put me into a position where I died again, and that made me have a larger perspective, right? No, I needed to know this. I needed to learn this. Okay, I needed to do this, right? And then I had to sell to get the kind of healthcare I needed, because they said, "Oh, you're a rich guy. We'll take all your money," which they did. And then, "Oh, now you can die." Because that's what they do to rich people. They take all their money, unless you're not, uber rich. If you're just middle class rich, like my parents were just middle class rich, they had $1 million or $2 million. But when '08 happened, they lost 80% of their net worth like that. And that's why my parents died. It freaked them out. And they were already, pushing 100. So, and they were already really sick. And I have everything that my parents have. I have my mom's cottage cheese teeth. That's why I don't have anymore. I have her diabetes, her neuropathy, her Charcot legs, and I have my dad's blood disorders. So I should be dead. That's what my doctors keep telling me. And around here, the kind of healthcare I get in Roanoke is about 140%, right? When I get here in Appalachian poverty is about 40%. So I have to take care of myself here. And my doctors, I got them spread all over the place, because I found one over here and one over there, but not in conjunction. And not in a way that, they only kind of take care of me because I take care of them, just like I do the doctors in Roanoke. So, but like I'm part of a HMO in Roanoke. All of my medicines in Roanoke cost me $10 for 90 days. 1 month of my medicines, just my diabetic medicines, not my other medicines, just my diabetic medicines, cost $2,800. Now, if I can get all of my medicines, and my test kit, my sticky things, and my blood test, and my high blood pressure medicine, and my all my other medicines, I can get all of those for just $10. That's what it costs. Whereas, CVS pays that $10 but wants to charge me $2,800 because they can. And that's the problem, right? So I've been, so this is an introduction. It's been 35 minutes and there's only 3 of you here. Not a single thumbs up yet. Hey, Alan. So this was an intro to, so I've been reading all my books again because I'm out in the woods. I have these pallets with boxes of stuff covered in, each box is tied up in a plastic bag, and then I've tacked a tarp over them. And because getting out of the school, I had so much stuff. If you ever go look at the Canary in the Coal Mines video of a few weeks ago where he unearthed a really sacred box of mine that had letters and pictures of my great grandparents, and and jewelry that Madame Ogle Kluver gave me. He has no idea what this stuff is, and he's so emotionally, spiritually, psychically vomited, defecated, and did everything you could to dishonor it, ergo dishonoring himself. And that was just one little box. And that video starts out where he pans into, where I have 98% of my stuff. I only got to take 2%. And the way he was, get out, get out, get out, I had to go through my stuff pretty much I got rid of things I wanted to get rid of. I tried to keep the most precious things, but that box, there are other little gems like that. Anyway, but here I'm out in the middle of the woods, so I just have these pallets because I had no money to, because all the money I got for telling John at school, I had to pay off all my debts. So I kind of got to zero, and then the doctors took the rest. And then for me to get any kind of assistance, I had to basically go on disability and have nothing, right? So that's how and luckily I was in Roanoke that has Carillion, that has a zillion doctors and hospitals, and that's Roanoke. They're trying to become the big hospital, Mayo Clinic of their neighborhood. And that company, their whole thing is a scam, in that they get all this real estate from the county and the city for nothing. Because they're a nonprofit. They start their institution, and then after they kind of get everyone's money, they it's 11:48. We've been running for 38 minutes. There is 2 of you now, and not a single thumbs up. So I'm going to read you. So I've been reading all my books, all the classics, all the this, all the ones I had. I'm about 300 books, right? And I had about 5,000, and I gave about, or a friend of mine sells things over the internet, so he took all my books away, right? Except for about 300 or so, and those are the ones I kept here. And some of them are really classics, like Dickens, And Dickens wrote, David Copperfield, Great Expectations. All those were published in newspapers. That's why they're like 7,000 pages long. And his Christmas Carol and Tale of Two Cities were the only 2 stories that that he wrote from beginning, middle, and end, meaning that he had an idea what it was. The Christmas Carol was the story he wanted to be able to tell on Christmas Eve. And, so it had to be, about an hour long. And Tale of Two Cities was a political discourse on what was going on. Thanks for the one thumbs up of one of you two. And so I read all these books all summer. I got here. I've been here 220 something days, right? I have not been at the school with the canary in the coal mine this whole from May 8th until today. Now, I went back twice to get my eyes operated on, and I went to, he said, "Oh, please come back, please come back. Oh, buy a case of beer. Let's have a party." And I would go there, and he'd drink it all and then throw me out. And the last time I did was September or late August, I think late August. And he threw me, I got there around 4 because I was doing other stuff. I got up there, it was a beautiful day, and I started getting things into my car because I'm trying to move stuff out of there. Now, the live chat he did today is in the room that I used to live in, right? And that's where I had most of my stuff, and he's cleaned it out. God knows where it is. And most of my winter clothes were there. So that's why I'm, freezing here, and he's got my winter clothes. God knows what he did with them, He's probably wearing them and saying they're his. Just like he said that box was his. And he says, "Everything in this house is mine," And, no matter how many contracts we signed, that's, and that represents this, right? That represents this, right? The new normal, John is the canary in the coal mine. He is the new normal. Donald Trump is exactly like John. I mean, they are like mirrored images of each other, except Donald Trump is president of the United States and the free world. And he is, what he's doing to all the institutions, institutions of the presidency, of, the three power, the legislature, the executive, and the courts. He's destroying them. This man, not only is Supreme Court now got these two morons on, but it's the appellate courts. He's put close to 300 guys. Half of them aren't even lawyers, and they're there for life, and they will do what they're the minions, right? And the bottom line is that people like the Koch brothers, you should go read a book called Kochland, right? So, anyway. And there was a guy, Jim, he was an economist. He got Nobel Prize, like what's happening in South America, in Chile and Bolivia. This guy went there in the 50s because Rockefeller owns those places. And he wrote their constitution. So rich people rule and poor people die. Right? And they had, 20 years of Pinochet. So, and that's where we're heading, gang. Something like Gattaca meets A Handmaid's Tale meets 1984. That's where we are right now. But because of these screens and fast food, we're distracted. And because Donald Trump, everything, I mean, their budgets to be passed, but they're not, And, they keep cutting like me. I started out with $193 of food stamps. Now I have 54. I started out with $981 of Social Security disability. Now I'm at 572. Right? That's now I am a guy who can navigate these things, but I'm watching everyone around me die from this. Literally die because it's a factory 40 miles away, putting unbelievable because there's nobody here to complain except for really poor Appalachian folk, and they want to wipe them out so that they can build golf courses. This used to be the Garden of Eden. So what I'm going to read to you right now is what I have been writing. Now I've written 4 novels this summer. After reading all my books again, and where is this? There we go. It's up on the side there. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so I've written 4 novels, and they were, I'm like Dickens. Each of them I got about 500 pages of writing because when I sit down at this keyboard, it just comes out of me, right? It's not edited. And then the real work is to chink, 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 sculpt the thing. So I had 4 novels, each about 500 pages. That's like, close to 3,000 pages, give or take, right? And so I kind of put them together into a new book, right? And it is called, and part of it came, the backbone of it came from Moral Majority, Family Values, Broken Girl, Black Widow, Hot Pants, right? So then I rearranged and I put the other 3 novels in there, and I got, and it starts out, Act 1, same as it ever was. Don't believe anything I say. Down to Part 1. The Moral Majority, Family Values, Broken Girl, Black Widow, Hot Pants. A misadventure of ideas, right? So each of the act, so there's like 4 novels broken into 3 acts, and each act has a part, right? So here we go. So I'm just going to read. I'm not going to be looking at I'll go to office, change the typo. Yeah, okay. But, I'm all over the place. And sometimes I haven't been able to do things because I didn't have the money to drive to Johnson City, which is 60 miles from where my front door is. So that's 120 miles round trip to go to Social Security. And no one can tell me where it is. Oh, it's up there and behind the whatever. They can't even tell me what exit to get off on. So, and when I call up the Social Security office and I don't have, cell signal, I have to drive 20 miles just to make a phone call. I mean, in this place, I don't get a phone signal. I do have Wi-Fi here. And this is 10 miles. So to make this YouTube for you, I have to drive 20 miles. That's $2 worth of gas, right? And until I get, my 570 something in Social Security, I'm down to zip, and they don't just let me sit in here. I can get a $6 breakfast and sit here all day. But so you want to help me out? Go to the dudeawake42 at Gmail, and put something in my PayPal account. And many of you have, and it works, and it's very nice, and I thank you for that. But I'm limited, and I really appreciate you saying, go change my Social Security. Well, so when I called the Social Security office, first off, they just don't answer the phone. A robot says, we can call you in 3 hours. So I had to stick around for 3 hours. I had to make a reservation to talk to somebody. And then I had to wait around, so I was in a cell signal for 3 hours, right? I was on the side of the road, cops stopped twice. Luckily, I know who they were. And I said, hey, listen, I'm just waiting for the Social Security. Yeah, my mom has to do something. It's happening to everyone, except people like Bill Gates, Good luck. Now, I've had a life. I've had an adventure, and I'm going to still have one, meaning till the day I go home to Love's Co-Creation. I have fun here. I have fun out there in the snowstorm all by myself, musing over the fact that it's not snow, it's styrofoam balls, So here we go, kids. This is a sleigh ride, okay? So, same as it ever was. Don't believe anything I say. Part 1. The Moral Majority, Family Values, Broken Girl, Black Widow, Hot Pants, a misadventure of ideas. Book 3, Broken Girl, Body Dysmorphia of the Soul. Love is the language in which God speaks. For when we listen with our love's co-creation to love's voice of empathy, it is our heart that encompasses love. All there is love. All else is ego's illusion. and that was written by Saint Germain. Go look him up. Dharma was deaf to this voice of love's empathy. If we do not explore our life, it is not a life worth living. Hey, that's my. If I give you any message today, it's that. If we do not explore our life, it is not a life worth living. Plato wrote that. He's talking about, in the discourse. And you want a good example of the character of this? The mirrored image of the Canary in the Coal Mine, Johnny Boy and Diney Chump. Those are two people who do not explore their life. They do not think about what's going on. They just react. Thus, they do not have a life worth living. I try not to watch, Johnny Boy's thing. I do just pop in to make sure he's still alive because he still is my friend. I care about him. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about anybody. He doesn't even care about himself. He actually hates himself. That's why he has, this disorder that he can't pick what character he is, right? They used to call it multiple personalities, but it's a DID now. Damara was deaf to the voice of love's empathy. If we do not explore our life, it is not a life worth living. Plato. We live in a moment of critical opportunity, same as it ever was. We have been told you live in a world of scarcity. How am I going to pay the bills? And you better get yours before some other liberal, skinhead, N-word, LBGT, queer, mother fracking woman, bad dude, doggy dog, gets it before you. That's where we're at. Everyone's supposed to be scared of the other. That's why we can't come together and make a better world. The only way we can come together, it's like you look at, Black Lives Matter. Look, first look at Occupy movement, Black Lives Me, and Me Too. Those three are the most recent mass movements of the last 20 years, right? And they didn't even survive birth, because the hidden hand is so good at playing everyone against each. You're better than him, right? Damara could not understand why her life sucked so much. She had conquest, raped her web around the richest man's genitals, sucked him dry for the last 20 years, and then she murdered him. Had her family doctor, moron, the county medical examiner, one of her sexual mechanics, declare him, the old man, her husband, dead within 30 minutes of her alleged finding him dead in the shower. Within 2 hours, she had him in a cheap box in the funeral home on repose. 12 hours later, a 2-page remembrance in the capital paper of evidence. A state record 1 hour past the legal limit. Larry was cremated. 25 hours from the time Larry was declared dead, Larry was smoked, torched, incinerated. Evidence of murder destroyed. No autopsy. And don't even get me started on that. Because basically, anybody can do this, because we have no real medical examiners. Like this county, the guy who's a medical examiner here is actually the vet because nobody else wants to do the job. I seed this to unsettle you. I want to say something that makes you reevaluate what you're doing with your life at this moment, for we find ourselves on the battlefield of our soul's revolutionary piety, same as it ever was. Within a week of Larry's murder, Damara had sold Larry's old family homestead and bought herself one of those new tribal wives. It had that formaldehyde new car smell guaranteed to last a year. The salesman said it was the sweet taste of money. Everything in Damara's life always had been conditional and transactional. She always forced everyone in her life to do as she wanted. But now she didn't know why everything she believed in did not bring Damara any joy. With Larry's ashes on the mantle of her home, that's all she could taste. But Damara liked the taste of scot-free murder. Now, that paragraph, you know, Damara's life always had been conditional and transactional. That's the canary in the coal mine, the mirrored image of Johnny Boy Boy and Donnie Chump Chump. Their whole lives, they don't do anything for their heart's sake. It's all conditional for what they think they want at that moment and transactional what they're going to get out of it. And that is, and they didn't, it's not, they can't be blamed because that is what these guys have done to make them that way. Everything in Damara's life always had been conditional and transactional. She always forced everyone in her life to do as she wanted. But now she didn't know why everything she believed in did not bring Damara any joy. With Larry's ashes on the mantle of her new home, the with Larry's ashes on the mantle of her new home, that's all she could taste. But Damara liked that taste of scot-free murder. Piety is not blind obedience to authority. Piety is not critical indifference to being stuck to cultural, prejudicial, belligerent beliefs just because we've been culturally programmed to do so. Same as it ever was. When Damara was a young girl, she was always a mean girl. She took no prisoners. She knew she wasn't popular amongst her peers, or her parents bought her friends. They were not her peers, they were her property. As a bad little girl, the only thing she could remember that brought her joy was setting birds' nests ablaze with gasoline. The helpless babies burned with great suffering, while the parent birds were set ablaze trying to save their young, as Damara imagined Larry did. The idea of this did not bring her joy, as the memory of the burning baby birds did. It wasn't enough. Readers, you're saying to yourself, who the frack is this bitch? But, Damara. Damara was the mother of, the box that should never be open, that girl who was stuck in that box. Her mom was Damara. And the soul slip of Damara was the queen in Snow White, with the poison apple. That's Damara. Oh, don't open what box? There is more in our piety is the acknowledgement in the supernatural in all our relations. Piety is when we embrace to freely choose to serve love's course of co-creation, to live in love with all our relations, to inspect of all our feathered, scaled, skinned, cold, and warm-blooded carbon and silicate relations. 9 generations in the past of our elders and into the future of our children. There is more in our stars than we may think we believe. My good friends, the words of the wordsmith, Shaken Bill, same as it ever was. Now, there's only 2 of you listening to this and this, I feel like Vincent van Gogh, probably the greatest artist of all times, way better than any of the other morons, because he took his suffering and put it on canvas to express joy. of what the world around us is. You know, he was, living a life where all he could suffer was, no one understood him. He was, like I was, um, had, he was probably Asperger's. He probably had autism. He probably had every, but he knew who he was, and he put it on the canvas, right? And everyone thought it was, and it only survived because his brother paid, tried to keep him alive. And the only thing Vincent could do was give him these paintings. And his brother had no real appreciation of them and put them up in the attic where his wife, the brother's wife, she was the smart one. And she realized that something was going on with Vincent, that this was really something amazing. And so, pretty much a year or two after Vincent died, his brother died. And Vincent died by trying to kill himself with a gun. And he didn't blow his brains out. And so he took a few days to die, in bed and of the infection. And his brother kind of died probably of a broken heart, but, of pneumonia. But his brother's wife was smart enough to get it in writing that she owned everything, the house, the money in the bank, the business, and those paintings. And the day her husband died, she mourned, but she was, trying to find a way to get Vincent van Gogh's paintings out, to have shows, and she just didn't put them in her, like here, she went to galleries and museums, and, the whole Enlightenment age was just about to hit the big time. And so she realized, hey, this is how to market this, not as old paintings, but as the new paintings. And that's why this video is called The New Normal. Watch out for it. Meaning Vincent van Gogh wasn't the new normal. He was the artist in the first person. He was the original Aboriginal. That's why he was so out, because he was feeling everything. That's what the Aboriginal does, feels it. Not here. This is all just a squirrel in a steel cage, right? Nothing's going on here. This is where it is. This is all just a bunch of switches and wires, right? Keeping this alive. But the only thing that processes the prana and the chi is our heart, right? It turns it into photonic light. Every time, go back again, go get that, dart board, get the numbers, roll some dice. I have more than 700 shows, and you should go start watching them. And you need to start sharing them. Get, we got 352, whatever. It'd be nice to have a few more cadre, right? I love you guys who come and watch. I love that you're here. I can't even see what it is. Even when I put two glasses on, I still can't see. So, nope. So these letters are 5 times bigger than those letters. There is more in our stars than we may think we believe. My good friend, the wordsmith, Shaken Bill, same as it ever was. Now that is the correctamon question. Who the frack is this bitch? Now that is the correcto mundo question to be asking for tomorrow. Wasn't some whack job that would end up on the Jerry Show or on page 6 of the whatever supermarket checkout tabloid, where Damara's equally whack job neighbor would be saying, she was such a Christian lady, always being with the ministers, getting personally involved with getting saved. You always were seeing her around the church in town on her knees. And Damara would say, I am on my knees polishing the knob of Jesus. If we learn to navigate the love that is set forth in our stars by just looking up with piety to embrace that there is this spiritual wind at our backs that propels us towards a life of love's integrity, honesty, and love's co-creativity's grace, this sublime dependence that is faith's grace, that is love's co-creativity of unconditional forgiveness, manifesting great gratitude to all love's relations. So that right there is a pretty meaty paragraph. Way more than, ooh, like the canary in the coal mines kind of, dribble from his coming out of his ear while he's like just, oh, I'm watching the floor, 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 I'm watching the floor. Or Danny Chump going, make America great, I'm making America great, I'm making great. It's all about me, all about me, all about me, all about me, all about me. No. Let's read this paragraph again. Let's see what it does to your heart. If we learn to navigate the love that it is set forth in our stars by just looking up with piety to embrace that there is this spiritual wind at our backs that propels us towards a life of love's integrity, honesty, and love's co-creative grace, the sublime dependence that is faith grace. With that is love's co-creativity of unconditional forgiveness, manifesting great gratitude to all our relations. Meaning, we are all connected. We have to have gratitude for all our relations. That's why I'm still John's friend. For all the things he's done to me, how he's, going through all of my stuff, but it's just my stuff, and maybe he might get, he found that sacred box, um, I have great gratitude for John, not because he let me stay at the school, please, no, and by me staying in the middle of the woods for the last 220 something days, really, I didn't need Johnny Boy. The last time he threw me out in late August, middle of the night, he knows I can't see at night, and he makes me drive away, down our 2 mile long riverbed. And there's a cliff on one side, a mountain on the other side. Luckily, I braked that so many times. I know where every pebble is, so I could tiptoe down that thing. And then the road, the dark, windy road out to the county road. And then the county road, I'm driving on the county road, and a big truck comes around, and the bright lights, I can't see anything for a good minute. And then, I'm like, it's a turn here, I think. And I made it to a cul-de-sac. When I knew no one was going to try to get me out of there. And I called up my friends again and just got the voicemail. And, then I kind of leaned back and tried to fall asleep in the car. And then the phone rang. It was one of my friends. Where are you? And I told them where I was. And they came and got me. And they took me to a party that lasted 3 frigging days. And it was put on. It was for all these people who have been fighting Mountain Valley gas pipeline coming through our valley. That's destroying everything. The drinking water, the view, our economy, everything, right? Just so they can bring the Canadian Tar Hills gas through that and the fracked oil and gas from upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, destroying some of the best drinking water on the planet. And that's why they're really doing it, right? And because they have no gratitude or grace. But if John hadn't thrown me out, which was like a nightmare, I said, John, just let me sleep till the morning. No, get out right now. And that's how he is. How many cups of coffee did you have, John? John, the last few mornings I've seen his videos. So, and I'm drinking my coffee. Well, when John drinks just one coffee, that's like smoking 2 bowls of crack for John Birmingham. That's his Libra chemistry. He should never. I mean, what do I drink? Hot water. Again, I have great gratitude for John because he is such an example of what's going on. You want to see what's going to happen to you, unless you wake up. Go watch John Birmingham's videos. That's you. I kept saying, oh, yo-yo. That's yo-yo. That little turd of a, no, they're not called turds. They're called trolls, And that guy or gal, I really think it's John Birmingham, that whole channel of his is just about me. you know, and how much, anyway. So back to this. If we learn to navigate the love that it is set forth in our stars by just looking up. How many people look up? I mean, I saw this flying saucer, a friend of mine on Houston Street, Houston and Broadway, probably one of the most busiest corners in Manhattan on the planet. He had a loft, and we came out his front door, and all the bums, because the Bowery was just a block away, and there was a bum store. And that was a store where most of the bums were people in the military. Like out here, the Appalachian Trail kind of goes by me, and the Blue Ridge Parkway is right by me. And over this summer, there must have been at least 100 ex-service folk who had served us at, by going to, serve the corporations, really. But they were all people who were, multiple times sent to Afghanistan and Iraq and other places, 200 other places around the world where we're having wars. And they just kept sending them back and back and back, and having them exposed to them having to machine gun children. Because the CIA through, Monarch had brain controlled little kids to, put suicide vests on them to go after our servicemen. Anyway, this is all an orchestrated, hideous gavotte, and we're all responsible for it, That's why I do this channel. That's why this is like a stream of consciousness of all of this, right? I go into a meditative state and put it on the YouTube. Now that's why I tell you guys, you better take all this stuff, put it on thumb drives, put it on. It's all public. I don't hold anything back. You can copy it all because it's not me. I'm like channeling this stuff. If you haven't figured that out already, and it affects you. Why do a number of you keep coming back? There's every time I do this, Alan and there are fish, and there's about 10 of you. I come back all the time. Now there's 40,000 of you that are watching it, but only 352 of you have subscribed. Those other 40,000, not so much. Now they do get a hold of me at the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And talk to me about it. And then I get back to them and say, so why did you subscribe me? Well, I just, I can't stand listening to radio or TV. They got all these commercials, but there's something about your voice and the stories you tell. I just keep it running. I don't even watch it. I just, turn up the volume while I'm, doing, at work or, when I'm cleaning the house and, I'm just somebody's wallpaper, because I put into each of these videos a shamanic energy that opens your mind and opens your heart, and that makes you feel pretty good, right? And that's where you can, if we learn to navigate the love that it is set forth in our stars by just looking up. So there we were on the corner of Broadway and Houston Street, 1982. And we're looking at all these bombs. We're going, oh my God, look at that! Oh. Because they were right in front of the bar. And the bars, the bum store was all these ex-military people who had PTSD, and nobody helped them. All they could do is drink, do drugs, drink. And they would get their little check from being a disabled vet. And they didn't have a bank account, didn't have anything, didn't have a place to live. And so the bum store was this guy who took their check and would cash it and put it in his book. And he would keep half of it for himself, and the other half he would dole out to them in cigarettes, booze, and whatever bum supplies they needed. And they could get a little postal box so they could get their check sent to them. Whoops. So, no, the battery is still pretty alive. Okay. Well, this laptop I don't have plugged in, so anyway, so the bums were on the ground, and they were screaming, and they were looking up, and there were these two looked like ice cream cones, big as bread trucks, like 20 feet long, 8 feet high, 8 feet wide, and they were twisting around each other, looked like they were having sex, and gigantic sparks and lightning bolts, no noise, just this amazing pyrotechnics going on. Lunch hour, Broadway, no, Fifth Avenue, no, Broadway and Houston Street. The only people who saw it were the bums. And the bum guy came out and he looked at, and he turned into a Christian. But it wasn't in the news and it was there for an hour. No one looked up. Let's see. If we learn to navigate the love that it is set forth in our stars by just looking up with piety to embrace that there is this spiritual wind at our backs that propels us towards a life of love's integrity, honesty, and love's co-creativity's grace, this sublime dependence on that is face grace, that is love's co-creativity, of unconditional forgiveness, manifesting great gratitude to all love's relations. This great gratitude creates the blessed environment that controls our ego's fashionably fascist soul. Pretty much, if you're not awake, you have a fashionably fascist soul. When you're going, ooh, I'm too fat. Oh, I got a gut. Oh, I got to be moving out. Oh, how do you like my new shirt? Oh, I just dyed my beard. That's fashionably fascist. That's a fashionably fascist soul. Now, it's not your fault. You've been manufactured. This great gratitude creates the blessed environment that controls our ego's fashionably fascist soul. Now, our ego is that little squirrel in the metal cage up here. Creates the blessed environment that controls our ego's fashionably fascist soul's market-driven salability, like a slave on the block. Our ego's fashionably fascist servile soul brands us like cattle, to be most concerned with our being the next spectacle, the next image of adoration, the next exemplar of the fascist fashionable thing of success. This slavery reinforces the egocentric, self-settled narcissism of the mercantile establishment of the fashionably fascist soul, where taste of the fascist fashionable thing creates the next human holocaust. So, you ready for that? Who is this bitch that she can kill my good friend Larry, too legit to quit Random Bob, legal counsel for all who could afford it and those who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time? How can that bitch have Larry cremated 1 hour of the legal limitations? That's a state record. No autopsy. I had just served divorce papers to that bitch. We had her dead to rights. And then less than 48 hours later, Larry ends up dust in an urn. If that bitch didn't murder Larry, Opie, you're an honest cop. Sheriff Oppenheimer Taylor, everyone just called him Opie, morbid obese body moved with a emotional and gastropodic intelligence. Sheriff Oppenheimer Taylor, everyone just called him Opie, morbid obese body moved with an emotional gastropodic intelligence. Affect to Random Bob's not too subtle accusation that Sheriff Opie was in on the collusion. Sheriff Opie gut rumbled like an LA earthquake, and his fat butt cheesecake opened like the San Andreas fault, releasing, expelling a Mount St. Helens of a body towel. You knew Sheriff Opie was lying when he farted, and when he shite his pants like he just had, you knew he was lying like a rug. You could take it to the bank. To reject to reject this taste and the fascist fashionable thing by being with being happy. Being happy is not being selfish. Being happy is not being about yourself. Being happy is about making the other happy. Your life is not so much about what you can do for yourself, but what your life can mean to someone else. And that's why John Birmingham and Donnie Chump are so miserable. Because all they can think about is themselves. They can't even make themselves happy, you know? Because they want to be famous. They want everyone to, they want to be the center. Now, generosity of forgiving is the freedom of love's unconditional, universal emancipation of spiritual consciousness, where we are perpetually happy for what we can do for someone else by making them happy through our example. And that's what I try to do with John. I try to be around him and be a good example. Be there to listen to him. And I have to thank John for all of the mystery he showed of himself to me, because it kept making me, generosity of forgiving. I just had to. And he's like the gift that keeps giving. I try to ignore him, but I worry about him and I go look at what he's put up and it's like, uh. So, and that's, so it forces me to write this novel, If I had totally ignored John and just stayed in the woods on my hammock and just read books, that would have been fine. And that's what forces me to make these YouTubes, because I try to reach out with my heart to you, my cadre, and you aren't, I'm just your sensei and you are my adepts. And that's what makes us a cadre, equal, Generosity of forgiving is the freedom of love's unconditional, universal emancipation of spiritual consciousness, where we are perpetually happy for what we can do for someone else by making them happy through our example. Gonna sneeze here. You guys hold it together for a moment. I'll talk amongst yourself. I'll be right back. Now it's 6. How about some more thumbs up? And how about some of you guys going over to the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail and drop something in my PayPal account. I have to sneeze and get some more hot water. I'll be right back. Ooh, talk amongst yourselves. Oh. Oh. I gotta move or else I start to rust. Well, look at that. We've been having fun. I've been on for an hour and 24 minutes. Okay. Generosity of forgiveness is the freedom of love's unconditional, universal emancipation of spiritual consciousness, where we are perpetually happy for what we can do for someone else by making them happy through our example. Random Bob, okay, that's the end of that paragraph, and then we jump into the story again. Random Bob, now that's just fake news. You know, I was miles away with you and the boys at Madame LaBelle's House of Family Values. There was no collusion, no proof, fake news. Opie, I know I'm the only one of our card party who wasn't fracking that bitch. It's not so funny that you six ended up as Larry's pallbearers. That bitch tried to stop me from seeing Larry off. Damara ain't no small town sociopathic psychocropus sexual predator. Damara, and that's spelled Physocra. Having no teeth, I can't pronounce it correctly. Damara is a universal demon seed, ready to infect all of humanity. Damara is a Pandora's box, right? So Damara was Pandora's mother. Damara is Pandora's box. Is a Pandora's box, a socialized, spiritual pandemic pandemonium. Mark my word, Opie, man, none of this is going to end well for all that had a hidden hand in killing Larry. Now, come on down, Random Bob. Don't start nothing you can't finish. We all really love you. We made you state Supreme Court judge and everything, but you're not one of us. You even married another. I went a bit too far on that. I should not have said that about Alina. We all love her. She is also very smart, a real lawyer in her own right, and always standing right behind you, the one who wears the pants. There I go. Again, I got to excuse myself, Randabon. I got to freshen up. Opie got up. The butt mud flowed down his pants as he entered his monastic toilet. He yelled into his segregated assistant, Elena, get in here, girl, and clean this mess up. Eleni was Eileen's identical twin sister. Random Bob, I just love racial and gender equality, don't you? Good day, sir. When Opie ended any conversation with good day, sir, you knew he was sticking it to you, no matter how bad he smelled. Having you talk smack to me can't bring me down because I am happy being happy. Love's co-creation is cause it's just is what we are meant to do. For being happy is the only truth of love's co-creation that we can share with all our relations. Being happy is what makes us clap to a song along with a stranger. Then we smile and realize we are friends, even if we aren't the same tribe, for it makes us happy because it is just what we are meant to do. And that's what life really is about, being happy. That's all, why am I always happy? I'm, next to death here. I'm happy. I have no money. I'm happy. It's 40 degrees in the middle of the night in my little box. I'm happy because it could be 20, and I know there are adventures ahead of me. All of this that I'm doing here is to predicate something really exciting about to happen, because all my life, that is what's happened. And now, I'm kind of like Vincent van Gogh. Yes, I pant, but not like him. But the fact that I'm always in the right place at the right time, and so was Vincent. All his paintings, where he was out there in the fields of France, and he would play his easel just in the right place to catch that light, and then he would transpose that bliss of experience on the canvas, right? He was in the right place at the right time. Well, it took 50 to 100 years after his death for him to truly be appreciated. But today, any person worth their salts of understanding what you know love's co-creation through the painted art is realizes that Vincent van Gogh is the greatest painter ever, was, probably ever will be. I've not seen any, I mean, yeah, there's some great painters, but no one even come close to what he did. Because he put horrific suffering and he translated it through his heart, not his mind. All these other guys who paint are my paintings are transposed through my mind. I try to put my little heart in there, but my training kind of gets in the way. And because I was trained to be a scenic painter, so that's how I paint, as a scenic painter. And I'll show you some photos of my paintings. And they're, whatever little betterness they are than just a good mechanic comes from the fact that I try to put my heart into it. Just like I try to put my heart into everything I do. Just like I'm putting my heart into this, live, chat with you folks, right? And that's why when you go back and see them, go get yourself, a set of dice or a, dartboard and get 3 numbers and go to those numbers, because I'm probably getting close to 1,000 shows. So what are you gonna do about it? You should be showing these to your friends. Man, you got to see this guy. You should be going back and look at, get yourself a dartboard. Okay, that's 212. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, huh? But 214, now that really touches me. Look, whatever number that is, go, look at it. If it really enthralls you, save it. If not, go 1 or 2, 5 or 6 on either side of it, and find the one that really touches you and save it. And then get, somewhere between 10 and 100 that are really amazing. And, from the top 10 to the next 10 to the next 10. And then start, your own little blog spot and say, these are things that touch me about, Sensei Al Bob, right? Play it. And what I'm telling you should do is so I got 2 laptops. I can play one thing off the internet and then record from this guy, right? So what I'd love you to do, that I think would be really fun and great, is in your own fashion, play me and play me behind you and have you talk to your audience. And, that cable show, Science Fiction Theater 2000 or 3000 or whatever it was, where they had these hand puppets in front of the 1950s sci-fi monster movies, and they would be cracking jokes about it. Now, if you could go into go to any one of the live chats I did where I brought you into your Akashic record, play me in the background and go into your Akashic record, and not just crack jokes, but be in state so you can say something pretty from your heart. If the 300 or so of 52 of you were to do that, it would change the world. It would change the world forever. Ever and ever. You would be world famous. You would be rich. You would be famous. Come and take care of me. But hey, if your job at Walmart's is more important, what can I say? If your anger about your ex, now John, I try not to have any anger about John, because I really care about him. But the stuff he does can twiddle. I'm still a human being, and I kind of have to vent about it. But he is, the universe, love's co-creation, I tried to sell that school a lot. John was the only guy, because the universe said, yep, this is the guy for Al. And, it wasn't just to back me out of being underwater, but he was the one who needed to take that place, because he's turned it into Pee-wee's Funhouse, which is okay. I'm sure George and Inga would be aghast. And the Hill doesn't care. The Hill will why everyone who's lived on that hill? And, George and Inga got there in the 50s, bought 300 acres of it, built, fixed up the homestead, built the school, and, tried to have a school. Didn't quite work, because all the people they got up there were, the energy of the school kind of So they knew that wasn't going to work. So they rented it out. And then they built like 6, 9 other little cabins because they enjoyed the building of the cabins. Those were like art pieces in themselves. And they rented them out to people. And all those people basically, vegetated for, however time they've been up there. Tommy Boy, he's been up there the longest, maybe 40 years. And he was pretty much a vegetable. And, the other folks, got into, they didn't go anywhere really. And the ones who left went someplace, There was a guy who is like Peter Pan. He was a musician and he was up there a good 10, 15 years and at his younger days. And he worked, he had a degree. He did nothing with it. And then he basically he's a really good musician. So he was in a band. And so he got girls. He was having sex with a different girl, 3 girls a night, for 15 years. Amazing. He, didn't come down with anything. But he had his jacuzzi. He was like, Hugh Hefner. And, there's, 4 other people who lived up there. And there were lots of people who lived up there over the years. But the smart ones got the heck out of there once they realized that they were turning into vegetables. The other ones just, started to root. But everyone who left got a life, And so I never rooted there. It was more like my warehouse. And I had the money to, I went to the county. And so what the county said it was worth $75,000. And I had just, sold a bunch of real estate. And I had to spend at least $125,000 to not have to pay a big tax bill. So, Inga said, "Oh, you should buy the school. You're the only person I know who could do something with it." Now, she was a smart girl. She was just shining my apple. But her Skippy, her son-in-law, who's married to her daughter. I mean, that guy married the girl because he loved Inga. He didn't have a mother like that or a grandma, and so he wanted to marry into that family. And so he did. So he was watching out. I mean, he's got his own issues and storyline. We all do. We all have our backstory. Like John Boy. If John Boy just told his backstory, if Donnie Chump just told his, instead of him saying, "I'm the greatest," if he just told the story of his whole family, the real story. So, like Donald Trump's uncle, when he kind of said, "I had an uncle who was a scientist," that guy worked for Hail Hydra. He was part of DARPA. And when Tesla died, him and the special force of the FBI went into minutes. I mean, if they didn't kill Tesla, they were like by the door waiting for him to die because they had the place bugged. As soon as he died, they went in there and scooped up all his papers. And they were scooping them all up. And then, like within 10 minutes, the commies showed up and started scooping up papers. "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" "Hey, George." And so all of this stuff is amazingly scripted, right? Now, there are guys like me, like Tesla, like Vincent Van Gogh, and many, many others that you don't even know our names, that, people call us, "You're not normal." Oh, we're not robots. We're not vegetables. We're not slaves, Bad girl smells really bad girl. Who created and placed in plain sight of humanity, bred in circus society, this anticipation of love's evolutionary empathy of all our relations, souls, consciousness, free-willed ascension, assassination. And that's, people like, all of the canaries in the coal mine are assassinating love's co-creation. Damara is not something new. The Malthusian problem action solution has been the fruit of go-to solution for the hidden hands controlling plan for we and all our relations, fake news, no collusion. Love's co-creation, it is spiritually revolutionary, for it is all there is. So how spiritually revolutionary are you feeling today? Yes, folks, all 4 of you or 6 of you, however many are you. How spiritually revolutionary are you feeling today? Okay. I'm going to see if I can read the chat. You guys have been chatting away a bit. Let's see. And your things are longer than just. Okay. I always give you a thumbs up. Yeah, I know you do, Alan. Here it says two. Yes, I do, Alan. Check your email. Okay. Uh, there you go. You should download just Facebook message. Well, I don't do Facebook. I don't have Facebook. I may, I'm stuck here, right? So Facebook is something like you kind of need to be on the internet. I'm not. I have to drive 20 miles. And I so despise Facebook and everything Facebook. I don't really do those things. But I'm a guy who, look at this. I'm doing YouTube. So I'm and once that little, like I said, I know that a change is coming for me very soon, and it will bring forth changes. So, maybe I'll do that, the Facebook Messenger, all of that. And you can speak on Face Chat in live time via the internet. Okay. I really like to know the name of that place you are at. Would love to get a piece of art. Oh. I'll get there. The lady would love that. I will get their email. Get her email, right? Let's see how many. There's 7 of you guys. Let's see. Lona was there. I don't know if Jane was there. So anyway, okay, I've read that. So. Every 90 days I get my eyes operated, and as it gets close to the 90 days, my eyes kind of. But they're not, every time before they operate on them, they do all these tests, right? And they say, oh, look, your eyes are actually getting better. We're not going to have to operate. Actually, I don't get operated. I have a procedure. Big difference. Operation means they're going to slice my eyeball open and do things to it. Procedure, they just stick things into it and do things to it. So it's a difference. So all us, who people, you're not normal, that means you are, one of the lucky ones. You just have to learn how to, that's why I did this. That's what the cadre is. It's there to assist folk who, get bullied and beat up and taken advantage of because they're not what, the nasty bit society because not normal. And I've worked with, so I'm a shrink, and I've worked in every element of shrinkdom there is because basically when I was going to school, I didn't just take classes. I got that degree because I was working at it, and the people who I was working for, you need a degree in this. So take this class, so I got to go to school for free. For 30 years, I got to go to school for free and got degrees because I was working on things that people wanted me to work on. And meaning it made, I do the protocol. I'm very good at, if people want to find this, I develop a protocol on how to find that, right? And I do it outside of the stuck procedure, right? And so I started doing that. They get funding for it. We look at it. We start to get really good data back. And so after about 6-8 months of doing that, once you get the ball rolling and you're collecting data, you then have to put it in a protocol that you will then publish. Well, when you get into that state, that's when, my name was going to go down on something like that. They'd want to say, well, look, he's got a degree. So I didn't matriculate through anything. And I didn't put my degrees, on the wall above my toilet either. I mean, that's usually where most degrees belong, not above the toilet, but in them. Let's see. Bad girl smells really bad girl. Who created and placed in plain sight of humanity's bread and circus society this anticipation of love's evolutionary empathy for all our relations, souls, consciousness, free will, ascension, assassination? Dharma is not something new. The Malthusian problem action solution has been a fruit of go-to solution for all the hidden hands controlling plan for we and all our relations. Fake news, no collusion. Do, 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 do. Let's see. Love's co-creation, it is spiritually revolutionary, for it is all there is. So now spiritually revolutionary are your feelings. So how spiritually revolutionary are your feelings? So there's something you guys can, reply to. How revolutionary are your spiritual feelings, right? So how spiritually revolutionary are your feelings? Do you have a happy piety bone in your body? You think yourself being happy can be that easy? That's your problem. You're thinking of yourself rather than being present with how you feel in happy communion with love's co-creation in all your relations, all our relations. I want you to close your eyes and breathe in conscious deeply, 20%, more than your robot autonomous self does. And be with love's co-creation, great I am, that it is. And breathe out 30% of all that crap you've been told yourself to be. Okay? I'm going to go get some more hot water soap. Do that breathing. Go into state. So you'll get a lot more out of this, right? All four of you.
What we have is meatloaf sandwiches. Look at the board. Right here.
Okay, I'm back. I ordered lunch. Smells too good. That's the thing about our senses. They're wired into needs, right? Safety, Maslow's 5 orders of social structure, roof over your head, a meal in your belly, someone to connect to like a family, then self-esteem, and then self-actualization. That's usually the one that nobody hits. Come on, guys. There's only one thumbs up. Let's have a few more. Fish keeps dropping these messages saying, should I bring them up? Let's see what it says. Screw it. Back to reading. Let's see. So, how spiritually revolutionary are your feelings? Do you have a happy piety bone in your body? You think to yourself, being happy can't be that easy. That's your problem. You're thinking of yourself rather than being present with how you feel in happy communion with love's co-creation in all our relations. I want you to close your eyes. So have you been breathing? Right. There is a lot to unpack in that little paragraph, right? You know? Damara, who is the bitch? Who is this bitch? And who made her this way? See, we can be manufactured. I would say the majority of the ugly bags of water are manufactured. All the ugly bags of water are manufactured. It is the abnormal ones that break the mold. And depending on how strong they are, is how long they last. So I'm pushing mid-70s and I'm still lasting. I haven't hid. Now, I've taken, going off dead-end roads every now and then, but right here, right now, not so much. Let's see. Damara's father. Damara, who is this bitch and who made her this way? Damara's father was a product of the Dorian Gray, his story of the hidden hands. Hail to the powers that shouldn't be's body politic of the Luciferian eternal gray lie of the incandescent light brigade's baseness of hell's illusionary universal corporate enterprise of ego's hate, fear, self-loathing, and ego's belief in illusion, narcissistic worship of the demigod of Aries, sacrament, greed, violence, invasion, rape. Oh, here you go, right over here. Yep. Okay, there I am. Oh, French fries and a Sammy. Meatloaf sandwich. Oh, baby. Woo. Missy, this gets an A+. This gets an A+. And that, eating should be enjoyed. Missy makes this food with love and consciousness. And that's why it tastes so good. And the guy who bought this, one of the old folks, he's smart enough to keep it. Might cost him a little bit more money, but more people come and eat his food. Good French. Can't beat a good French fry. Damar's father was a product of the Dorian Gray, his story of the hidden hand. Hail to the powers that shouldn't be. Body politics of the Luciferian eternal gray lie. Everything that is our sociological, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic world is a lie. Religion's a lie. Government's a lie. And it's being brought right out in front of us. Right out in front of us. I mean, look at all these governments. Look at what's happening in Brazil and Chile. and Buenos Aires, and the United States, and England, and Russia, and China, and Hong Kong, because we are in the Aquarian age, and all of these power structures are Piscean, representing, you know, the Dorian Gray, his story of the hidden hand, hail to the powers that shouldn't be, body politic of the Luciferian eternal gray lie of the incandescent light brigades, the military that will, that are mercenaries, and the military model. So I tried to tell this story of, when we had military day last week. And so, I come from a military family. My dad's a bird colonel in the Air Force, incinerated Dresden and all of Japan. And then the boss, General LeMay, developed Armageddon through Strategic Air Command. And, that's why my dad, was having pretty bad nightmares his whole life. Well, he would just flip out. The mom could kind of keep him under control. And he's a lot like most people have triggers. And usually my dad was hypoglycemic. So once I learned that out, I read about it. I used to carry bags of peanuts in my pocket. When I could see he was getting edgy, I said, "Here, Dad, eat the peanuts." And he would. He'd be okay. So I had a friend who's named Frank. And I was down in my neighborhood in Tribeca, right on the corner of Duane and Hudson Street, on Varick. These streets kind of did this in Lower Manhattan. In days left over from the Dutch, after the 1820s, they, from Houston Street up, everything was a grid. Everything went this way and that way. Avenues this way, streets that way. So it was good for business. So whereas below Houston Street, it's all a village. So where we lived was the Egg and Butter District. It closed down after 4 o'clock. And there was one working bar because AT&T was there. And the guys would go there for lunch. It's called Puffy's. And Puffy was a guy who was, about 3'2". So the kitchen, the counters were about 2 feet off the floor. And my friend Frank bought it because it was really a beautiful bar. It was just almost half a whole block. And was street up from Duane on Hudson corner. The store was right on the corner of Hudson and whatever street that was. And Hudson was egg and butter. The whole inside was like butcher tile. The floor, the walls, everything. You could like hose the place down. And this big long bar, half a street, like at least 50-foot long bar of a really nice old wood. And they had a little, kitchen back there and an apartment upstairs. So Frank bought this building for nothing, and he opened it up. And he realized there's only 3 places where the artists who were starting to move down there could. And he saw what happened to Soho. So he bought this building, and there was another bar that was a workers' bar. And this lady ran it. She was a bit crazy. That was the only place we could go and hang. And then, Frank bought this place and opened it up. And there was Frank's. There was a Pepsi diner, which is the diner that they had on SNL, where, because Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi lived right on Duane Street, right on my street. I used to see them all the time. And that's why they did that skit about the Pepsi diner. Pepsi, cheeseburger. That's all they made was cheeseburger. I mean, great cheeseburger, great fries, great, amazing. But that's all they had. And then, so there was that the Pepsi diner, and they gave you Coca-Cola, but the sign said Pepsi. They didn't change it. They didn't have the money. They just kept it up there, and Coca-Cola didn't give them a sign. There you go. I'm on Pepsi. Oh, and then Coke. Only Coke. Coke. Until the day they changed it, and then they changed the signs, and then they had Coke. And anyway, then there was a place called Towers Cafeteria, owned by Archie and Joan, and it was left over from the 20s, right? And there, that place became, the real fancy restaurant that you see the opening of Saturday Night Live in the 80s or 90s. The name of it will come to me. That used to be Towers Cafeteria. So I was open about 8 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. And that was about it. You had to walk to Chinatown or go up to Dave's Corner, which was a diner. And all the ladies who served you were from extraterrestrials. They had antennas and 5 eyes. It was an interesting time. It was late-ish, 74 to 84 was my time in that place. And Donna kind of came in the middle of it. And I'd work real hard, make some money, and move on. And take a long vacation, come back, and my loss would go from like $200 a month to like $2,000. So, and not me. I'm always ahead of the curve, and I take it, and go home. I did pretty good. I rented whole floors, cut them up into little things, and gave key fees to lawyers. I made a nice chunk of change that allowed me to go live in Europe for 2 years, right? And not worry about cash. And I came back and did the same thing in Tribeca. Then I went away again and came back and did the same thing in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So, well, I never had that money that I could go buy a building. I planked it. And my father, constantly was at that, who are you? You don't belong here. Because my whole life, I was a getter right away, sir. But I did not work for him. I didn't do all the things he kind of wanted me to do. But when he died, like I said, we have this special plot in Long Island next to all the noteworthies of the Hidden Hand. And I got a little slot for me to go in there too. And when we put my dad in the box, he got the full Monty. I mean, real airplanes flying off and doing a split T, and his general buddies there saluting, and guys with real guns with blanks shooting, and a real guy with a trumpet instead of a guy with a boom box. I mean, that's what they do now. Everything is like recorded. They don't have like 20 guys out there giving a gun salute. They just have random recording. So, my dad got the full Monty, and we got to have, because it's a special cemetery, they have a building that's kind of like, a church. But it also has some room where they have lunch, feed you after you put them in a box. So you can commiserate a little bit. Anyway, my dad was there, the family was there, and all his buddies from the Air Force were there, and they were all generals. And I knew these guys because when I was a little kid, they would come to our house for dinner. And my dad, even though he retired in his early 40s, never as colonel, he was a bear colonel, but he's never going to be a general. He was never going to work for Boeing. So my mom got him to start a new life. They moved 28 times. She got tired of that. So anyway, I mean, that's why I wonder. My mom actually said she didn't like it, but she actually liked it too. Because after they settled down, they moved another 10 times. I built them 3 houses. And each one I built thinking that, the first time I built a house, well, when they die, they'll leave it to me. So I built it for myself, and my dad just sold it. So, we're at this lunch after we put my dad in the ground. And nobody's sitting with the generals. Well, I don't sit with my sisters and my brother or anything, or their kids. I go and sit with the generals, and I know them. So they're going on and on. And this one guy says to me, your father really loved you. He loved you more than almost anything. And he could never say it because, he had these issues, as we all do in the military. But he did, because when we'd have lunch or dinner or go to a meeting, all he could talk about was you. He never talked about any of his other kids or anything anybody else was doing. All he could talk about was you. You can't believe what Al's doing now. And that's the life I've had. I've served love's co-creation my whole life. Instead of trying to get more money for a bigger house. Because when I was making money, like my mother would say serious money. Yeah, but I had investments and properties and all kinds of stuff, but I was lucky enough to realize weight was coming, so I kind of liquidated everything in 06 and put in other things that were a little more secure from that storm. And so that was 08. So, 10 years ago, now almost 12, I've been kind of, paying off things and living on it. But, I kind of ran out of that money in 2015, give or take. So that was my dad. That was the military thing. So I really had a military upbringing, and a lot, and I had it in such a way that my brother did. He became a cardboard cutout of my father. I kind of dove into the pool of what we were doing and saw the good things about it. Probably the best institution America has is the military, because it does have this motif of responsibility, even though it works for the corporate state, not us. People who are in it, even though their soul is like, the potato peeling, that's what happens to your soul. But you can't kill people like that if you're emotionally. You can't just shoot little kids and women like dogs. You can't even shoot a dog. I'm pretty good with a gun. I'm really good with a bow, but I don't do it. I don't do it anymore. Never competed. I just had friends who were good at it. I would hang with them until I learned from them, and then we go out and shoot. I don't like the cordite in the primer, and I don't like the smell of the oil and the sound. Does everybody know who's a real soldier? Barely, you can't hear anything anymore. Anyway, so Frank, back to Frank and the bar Puffy's. You should go Google Puffy's on Hudson Street in Tribeca. And so Frank bought this place, spent it up, and made it a bar for the artist guys. And the bar was really long.
What's that?
So it wasn't just for the artists, it was also for mercenaries.
Oh, yes, you are.
Merch. So, so So when we go to that bar, I had all my friends with after work we go there. I'm not a drinker, I had one drink. I talk to everybody. But at the other side of the bar, all these kind of dark people, not black colored, but they like had a cloud over their head, and they were mercs. And Frank really, in the worst way, wanted to go, but his health, he couldn't go to war, he couldn't blow people up, so he had a friend. So I would go and talk to those guys because my dad was in the military, so I could communicate with them. Right? Where the other, my buddies, the artists, who were pretty bourgeois, basically just thought they were drunks. I didn't realize why they were drunk. So, and I worked in a VA, so I knew why people drank. And so, I got friendly with those guys. And then Frank one day said to me, "Hey, Al, I have a friend. And he's, and this is like, 1981. No, maybe 70. What was it, 75, 76? Around somewhere between 76 and 81. And he goes, "You're just back from Vietnam." I said, "Back from Vietnam?" I said, "That was over a long time ago." Or the Merc guys said, "Oh no, still going on." And they told me the story, said the reason why we're in Southeast Asia was transportation, where it was that we were about to, connect up with China. We needed to control that water land way. It was the most beautiful place. So all the people who had tourist getaways didn't want to bring it online quite yet. And it was the center, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam were the center of heroin production. The poppies. The war was really about poppies and oil. There's a lot of oil off the shores of Vietnam. So that's what the war was about, not about communism. Because Mr. Rothschild and Mr. Rockefeller and Mr. Arm and Hammer bankrolled the Russian Revolution during World War I. So that's why I like talking to those guys, because they were mercs. They had been in the Army or the Navy or the Marines, and then they became, individually contractors, did wet work. Anyway, those are guys I have as friends. So I would go and talk to them and listen to their stories. And they needed a place to crash. I had a place just around the corner at my loft. So it was like the mercenary hostel. And then when my buddy Lester, who started the Gray Rabbit, moved in, it was like made in heaven. Right? Go Google the Gray Rabbit. So, hmm. Hmm. So Frank said, "Hey, I have a friend who's back from Vietnam. He's trying to get into being just a non-mercenary kind of guy, but he's a pretty good electrician. You need an electrician. I only hired women because they were much better than guys." And so I said, "Well," he goes, "Well, for me," I said, "Okay, for you." Guy's name's Phil. So I said, have him show up, in work boots, jeans and work shirt, and if he's got any tools, screwdriver, side cutter, knife, a wiggy. So the guy showed up with those things, I mean, they were like, I talked to him, and he kind of knew what he was talking about. So anyway, he worked out very good, right? And electric work is not burly work, but sometimes it is, especially if you're doing services and you got galvanized 6-inch pipe. Either those things weigh 100 pounds a piece. Girls, not so much. But this guy, yeah, pick him up all by himself. And if you're unloading a big truck of those, so he was our gorilla. But he was knowledge, and the girls liked him. They felt safe around him because sometimes we went to places that, were not the nicest neighborhoods, and sometimes the girls felt a little. This is when heroin was big, and crack was starting to be cocaine, and so Phil became part of the crew, part of the family, not a problem, right? And I paid everyone better than, in those days. I paid them like somewhere between $10 and $20 an hour, between 1974 and 1982. Whereas the most guys were getting paid $3 an hour, $7 an hour, and but they were making me. Because I had a real business, and we were doing real jobs. I wasn't just fixing stuff anymore. I still do that, but less and less. And we had a couple of real estate clients that we did a lot of work. So, and once I learned to be on time and come on, have the job, finish on time and on budget, we were very successful. And I had a union backbone, meaning I had been in the union and I fulfilled the union, what they wanted from us. And there were a couple girls who wanted, weren't just being electricians because they, most like Kiki Smith, Duke of Delight. I had about 5 girls who became super rich, famous artists. But back in the day, they had to eat. So, and they liked me, and they liked the work we were doing, and made them think, and they liked it. So, the way I treated them like equals, not like they're girls, and that I listened to them. And if I was being a jerk, they could say, "Hey, you're being a jerk." And I go, "Okay." And so, that's why our business really thrived. And they liked Frank. I mean, they liked Phil. And so anyway, as the days, he started early spring, summer, we had a lot of work, fall, a lot of work. And we would do a lot of rehabs of condos up on Central Park South. We did a couple of those buildings, and then the architects knew us. And my plumber friend was a genius with plumbing, and my plasterer friend was a genius with plastering. And so I had a crew. And whoever was the contractor had it with the architect, but I would have a relationship with both of them, and I make their lives easy because I say, okay, we're going to be on this job. We're going to not be on 10 other jobs. So you, Mr. Contractor, you can be on 10 other jobs because that's your thing, but we will run it like we're the contractor, but you're the contractor. You take your slice. At the end, after you feel really good about this job, you might, take us out for dinner or send us to Jamaica. This one guy sent us all to Jamaica once. That was quite nice. And so, and he wanted to go get away from his wife and family. And I had lived in Jamaica, so I took him to this place in Ocho Rios. So I knew. Anyway, so, and that's a life, not being stuck in the same thing day after day after day after day. Milton said, quiet desperation, So, Phil is working out. He's doing a good job, and everyone's happy. And then, Phil starts wearing camo pants, his Vietnamese boots. I got Vietnamese boots. I got camo pants, not a problem. One day, he shows up at work, totally in camo, his face painted, and he's got his go bag. And I said, Phil, can I look in your go bag? I open it up, and he's got his Kate. And what is a Kate? Kate is a 50 caliber assassin's rifle, big, like telescope, and you can kill people like a mile away. Right? Flash. So, we're going to Mrs. Gottlieb's condo up on 57th Street. I don't think you're going to need this there. And he goes, they're all over. We're in country. Charlie's everywhere. And I got orders. I said, no, Phil, no. You're here in New York City. you work for me, and Charlie's nowhere. You got a beautiful Thai wife. You got a little baby. And no, this is, so can I take a look at your gun? Yes, you can look at my gun. So, Kate, the bolt is the heart of the gun. I take the bolt out, it comes out, and I put it in my safe, and zing, I have a little safe that nobody knows the thing but me. And I stick it in there. I said, okay, Phil, I'm going to take this bag and I'm going to put it in the lockup in the warehouse. And when, you're back to being Phil the electrician living in Brooklyn, maybe you'll have your gun back. But I'll keep it safe. Okay, boss, you keep it safe. I said, because he had camo paint all over his face. He blended in with whatever tree he walked by. And I said, Phil, wash all that off and, take that shirt off. And here is, because he had his assassin's shirt on. And I said, here's one of my work shirts. And I want you to go back and I want you to have a lot of sex with that really beautiful Thai wife of yours and smoke a lot of that Thai stick. And when you can come back, as Phil the electrician, and I'm going to set, Kiki with you to take you home. Because we had worked a job in Brooklyn and we went. He wanted us to meet his wife, and she cooked us a real killer Thai dinner. The 8 of us, the rest of the crew, Phil, me, and her, and she was like pregnant. So anyway, so we knew where he lived, and I sent him with Kiki back. So I said, here's $50, take a cab there and back. Take him, make him physically hand him to his wife. So they take off, we keep working. And, on jobs, there were no cell phones, but I would have whatever job we were on. We'd have a job phone wired there. Bell would have that, right? The architect or the contractor. And the people who I knew would want to get in touch with me that day, I would tell them whatever job we were going to be on, whatever phone number, that thing. And I had an answering show back of the shop, right? So, we go back, and about half an hour, phone rings, right? And the guy goes, hey, it's for you, some Oriental woman. Yes, Phil's wife. Where's Phil? And I said, well, Phil showed up. And she goes, yeah, I know. All his assassin clothes were out of the closet, and his cape was gone. I said, yes. He came to work. And I've got Kate, and I've got his assassin clothes. And I dressed him back up in civvies, and I have Kiki delivering him back to you. So I want you to screw his brains out and smoke a lot of herb and get him reset. Was he fired? I said, no, he's not fired. No, he's a great guy. He's my friend. No, he just had a little hiccup today. Not a problem. Oh, you're such a good man. You're about. I said, no. You're part of the family. Not a problem. Most people's family don't do that for their people. They throw them out. You're gay. Get out. So yeah, get out. You're this. Get out. They do that to their own children, their own parents. My brother did it to my parents. He got tired of, he threw him under the bus. Now, it wasn't a big deal, but it was, stressful for them and for everybody else. Not me. I was in Ireland. So, but the rest of my sisters worked for them. So it was stressful. So, Phil, comes back about a week later. He's dressed, work boots, jeans, work shirt. He's ready to go. I said, you okay, Phil? Oh, thanks, boss. You're the best. Not a problem. You're part of the family. So we go back. And he works here another, 5-6 months. And he saves every nickel. His wife, she's pretty well educated. So she got a job being a teacher at the university. And so, and she's a really good batik dyer. And I turned her on to my second wife, who turned her on to someone in the fashion world. But she was actually making way more money than Phil was. And so they had enough to buy a nice little house in Brooklyn. And when they had that house, they had a big party. And, there's Frank and all the guys who sat at the other end of the bar, and the girls and me. And the girls left early. The girls left by 10, but I was there until 3 with the guys smoking and not a big drinker, but listening to their stories and telling a few stories of my own, like the getting arrested in Disneyland with Gary Blue, because they all knew Gary Blue because he was part of the guys who I would work with, right? And he would always say, "Oh, he saved my life." I mean, today, Gary's married, has 3 kids. Last time I saw him in 2011, a bunch of people. We had a dinner down at Luna's in Little Italy, and Grandma Luna was still there, and we ate not in the dining room where the tourists were waiting on mine back to Houston Street. No, she had us in the, there's a dining alcove for the family and the mobsters, and we had dinner there, right? And everyone told stories about me and them, right? And so it was great. And Gary told the going to Florida story, vacation, right? And he saved my life. And and when Gary got married, Gary married the woman he was having sex with in the back of the bus. So you had to go back about 6 or 7 shows and go watch the Gary Blue show, Vacation. And guys, you need to go back and watch all of these shows, because there's a lot there. And if you all, yes, you're the cadre. Yes, they've touched your soul and your life, and you're changed. But it's time to go a little deeper. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Still only have 1 thumbs up. Well, there's still only 1 person watching. Is it Fish? Fish, you're the only guy watching?
Yeah, I just bring me a schedule or do me something or whatever. So I think after, let's say,
Facebook.
because they said just to continue 3 hours for now.
See you later. Okay, so I guess I'm going to go to, we've been on 2 hours and 28 minutes. So at 2 hours, 30 minutes and 30 seconds, I will sign off. So, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So my whole life has been stories like that, of being involved with people and not trying to get anything out of them, not being transactional, but making them happy. Because it made me happy. And it changed. I was that pebble in the pond. It changed the world. And there are a lot of things I see out there in the world that are big and and I was kind of instrumental in them happening. And I've never been one, you know, like if I come back again, hopefully I will go to Shambhala and have my dues of retiring and relaxing and taking some time, a good deserved vacation with all of my great friends and mentors, Tesla, Moray, and Saint Germain, and Alice Bailey, and thousands of others, you know, that I normally go hang out with in my sanctuary of my own choosing. The lights are flickering. Somebody's doing something. Anyway, so I'm going to let you guys go. Yep, here we go. We're getting up to 30 seconds. I'm going to, probably was affecting the lights somehow, but I'm going to go 28, 29, 30. I love you all. You stay safe, be good. I'll catch you soon. Maybe Sunday, right? Maybe Sunday. Who knows? Go back and watch the others.